Welcome to Ed Fluential Sports, where passion meets precision. I'm your host, Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And as you see in the title and as you see in the thumbnail, you know what the video will be about. So to get started with the honorable mentions for some of the best matches of 2025. First honorable mention: the System defeating Order 4 in Hardcore War at Bound for Glory in October. Faction wars are always fun and always and love when faction wars have different stipulations on them. Makes it feel more important. Tasha Steele's MVP, not Tasha Steele's. No, she took some good bumps as well. But Alicia Edwards, she was the MVP of it. The System were faces at this point, and she took some nasty bumps in that match. Like everybody did their thing, but definitely the women on both sides, Tasha Steele's and Alicia Edwards, they both showed out throughout this match. Then, second honorable mention: the Babes of Wrath defeating Mercedes Moné and Athena at AEW World's End to retain the Women's Tag Team Championships. It was their first defense as tag team champions. Willow, she went right after Mercedes Moné, wasted no time. Willow and all four women did a great job in this match, and this was the way to set up Willow to get her a rematch versus Mercedes by having Willow pin Mercedes in the match. And downfall of Mercedes continued throughout the year. Obviously, she won. Obviously, she won a lot of belts from different promotions, but as far as AEW goes, it wasn't the same story. Like a lot of these wins, like she was defending the titles consistently on pay-per-views and stuff like that, but when it came to some of the bigger matches, like this women's tag team match, like the world championship match she had versus Tony Storm, wasn't able to get the win in those matches. And now starting us off at number 20, going with John Cena. Had to include John Cena in his final year. John Cena defeating Randy Orton at Backlash to retain the WWE Championship back in May. One of even with the roles reversed, they did a great job with this. And there was a lot of stuff in Cena's heel run that I didn't like, but this is one of the few things I did like. Him as a heel going into a feud with a babyface Randy Orton. It was super cool. And like the pace of the match didn't have to change despite their roles being changed because they're both older anyways. And they never had like super fast paced matches. But I like the slow pace of it. The shock of R-Truth returning at the end added to it as well. At least at that time, you thought it would lead to something. Obviously, as we know now, didn't lead to anything, but it seemed like it could lead to something at that time. Then John Cena ended up retaining. The build up was simply great. Seeing them in different with the roles reversed. So yeah, John Cena, Randy Orton, one of the two John Cena matches I have on here. Number 19, co-safe for Judah defeating Yo in the Best of the Super Juniors tournament finals on June 1st. Coach for Judah, he caught my eye throughout the tournament. Yo did a great job as well, but when I was making my list of the top 10 wrestlers under 30, Coach for Judah was on that list. He was at like the lower end, like around 8 or 9, since I didn't know much about him. But going into that tournament, he just impressed me throughout each match as he advanced on through the tournament. And him and Yo put on a banger of a match, one of the best New Japan matches of the year. And they had excuse me, it was a bit of a struggle for New Japan this year, but this was definitely one of the more fun moments of the tournament. Was the most fun moment, and then seeing Kosei Fujita win, yeah, special moment for him. At 18, I had a triple threat that took place at Evolution between Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, and Bailey for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, where Becky would retain. I felt like this story was good. It could have been a great story. It was a good story, but I felt like if it was usually the promos, they hit best when it was two of them, whether it was Lyra and Bailey, Bailey and Becky, Lyra and Becky. Like when it was all three of them, it was two times where it was all three of them that did a promo, and it was kind of mediocre. But the other times the promos were very solid, in my opinion. And so the build was a good build, but I felt like it could have been great. Then the match it paid off as well. All that buddy buddy was going out the window at this point. Obviously, we know now Bailey and Lyra have been teaming up. I guess that's how they're gonna build Lyra into the main event scene. Already beat Becky. I think she beat Becky in a match. So yeah, she has beaten Becky in a match before. So this is how they're gonna build her up to become a main eventer or be in the main event scene at least by having her go to the mid card run first. Had a pretty decent IC title reign, and then you have her in a feud with Bailey and Becky. Now Becky is put over Lyra and Maxine, and now Bailey and Lyra are a tag team. I think they're just waiting for a heel to take the title off of Stephanie before they give Lyra the main event push. But this was a fun triple threat match, one of the best matches on Evolution. Evolution was a 10 out of 10 pay per view, the best WWE pay per view of 2025. and this was definitely one of the matches that helped propel it to that. Number 17, Hickory Goto defeating Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Now, this moment was a shock to me. Felt like this was a shock value win because the story, even though the story was it took him Hickory Goto took 22 years for him to get to this point. Took him forever to get over the hump, and he finally did it. So it felt like, okay, I guess this is a move to help with ticket sales, and it's like, I guess, but the match was the decision. I'm not mad at the decision was what threw me off. It wasn't a terrible decision, but the match itself was phenomenal. The build had a great build leading up to it, and in the previous events before that, because New Japan they do like TV specials all the time. They don't have an actual TV deal. Hopefully, they can get something like that by the summer of this year. But I am gonna find a way to watch Tanahashi's last match. I'm definitely trying to see that. Number 16, Vikingo defeating Chad Gable at World's End in June, the one they had in June to retain the AAA Mega Championship. Chad Gable did a phenomenal job in the mid card. When he was healthy, he obviously got injured as El Grande and got replaced by a much taller Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser isn't a bad El Grande. He's actually doing a good job, but replacing him with somebody much taller was certainly a choice. But Vikingo and versus Chad Gable, when they was there like this match, like Gable was getting over as a heel in AAA. Like they were blowing him out the building in that event. Like I think this was in Vegas. I think Vegas or LA, something like that. But Vikingo, he was already over as a face from the fans that knew him from AAA. I knew him from TNA actually because I seen a match of his in TNA. But he had been having a long reign as a champion. I thought Chad Gable was going to win since WWE owns AAA now. Now Vikingo did eventually lose, but it wasn't to Chad Gable. But I did think Chad Gable could have been a viable contender for the belt. And then, despite the short build and it being super rushed, they still made it work. Like they still both did a good job with this program. At number 15, I have Tony Storm defeating Mercedes Moné at All In to retain the AEW Women's World Championship. Only negative, it's not even a negative. It was just kind of felt unnecessary with them kissing, which I think is in my thumbnail. But it was a funny moment. It just felt unnecessary. But timeless Tony Storm, amazing character work. Mercedes, despite the great years she had, it was these key moments that she lost when it came to AEW belt specifically, not anything outside of AEW, but the women's tag team title tournament, the women's tag team title match, losing the TBS championship on the final show of 2025, losing the women's world championship match at All In at AEW's biggest event. So there was a few key moments where Mercedes just wasn't able to get the win. And this is one of them. And I love this match. This was one of the best. It wasn't the best match from All In, but it was one of the best matches at All In. Like the women delivered. Like it was a lot of women that did some great stuff this year, and there's gonna be some more women's matches that are on this list. Number 14, John Cena, the second John Cena match on the list of the two that I alluded to earlier. John Cena defeating AJ Styles at Crown Jewel in October. So Cena versus Randy and Cena versus AJ, the only Cena matches on this list. Even the build wasn't there. Like they just put the match together, and AJ Styles was teaming with Dragon Lee at this point, doing good stuff with the Phenomenal Dragons in their tag team. Because there was, I forget who they were feuding with, but I knew they started teasing them as a tag team, and they eventually won the tag titles and had a good reign with them. But this match alone, like the story going into the story of the match, was them knowing each other so well that they had to use other people's finishers in the match, and it wasn't able to put them away. Like some people complained about the finishers, but these aren't finishers they use. These are finishers of their old rivals, like AJ Styles using one of Samoa Joe's moves. I think he used Sting's Scorpion Deathlock, the one that Darby Allin be using as well now. It was like that. Even though they didn't get him a story to tell, they made magic in the ring, and they let the story told itself in the ring. This is one of John Cena's best in-ring performances of 2025 in his retirement year. So I put that at 14. 13 at the Judgment Day, which was Liv and Raquel at the time, defeating Naomi and Bianca Belair to win the women's tag team championships on the Raw before Elimination Chamber. I think they became 3-time tag team champions at this point, but it was already a bit of cracks within. Like it wasn't obvious, but they were building the cracks within the big three because Jade was still out. Naomi and Bianca didn't know who had took her out. Naomi was playing like she didn't, And then the Judgment Day, they thought it was the Judgment Day that did it, which is what led to this match. And the Judgment Day ended up winning, so they could take the titles off of both of them going into Elimination Chamber. Even though Liv was still in there, it was like, okay, it's pretty obvious. Either Bianca or Naomi is going to win it because they just took the titles off of them right before Elimination Chamber. Like they even though they're going into, I usually don't see that, like them a team losing right before Elimination Chamber, so it's obvious. Yeah, either Bianca or Naomi is going to do it, and then you had the Jade return. So what it led to all paid off, unlike some of these other matches, but this did pay off really well. At number 12, I got a match that was on regular TV. The Young Bucks, Ricochet, and Okada defeated Mark Briscoe, Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, and Kenny Omega on the final Dynamite of April. This was one of them all star tag team matches, 4-on-4. And usually I don't like these because it's not really a story going into it. It's just four guys teaming up to take on four guys. But it was a great story going into this because Jet Speed, they already had something going on with the Bucks. And then Mark Briscoe, he was doing some with Ricochet at this point. Then Okada and Kenny, they eventually had a match. Um, yeah, they had a match this year as well. So going into it, it was, even though it wasn't thrown together, like the fuse was already there, so it was actually one of the best built. Like they built it up over the week, and then they just ran down the final Dynamite of April. We're gonna do this 4-on-4 All Star Tag Team match, and it was a great win. And I think Ricochet pinned Kenny Omega because Ricochet, after the feud with Briscoe, he did go into a feud with Kenny Omega, or he had a feud with Kenny Omega earlier, so they didn't just ignore that and how it ended. At number 11, right before we get into the top 10, I got to go with Tessa Blanchard defeating Ariana Grace at TNA Under Siege in May. This is Ariana Grace still getting her footing, but putting on a really good match. Like, because in TNA, during the partnership before she officially turned heel, all her TNA appearances, she was a face, while in NXT, she portrayed a heel. And Tessa, she was rating Ariana Grace, talking a lot of trash to her. And going into this match, Ariana Grace really showed herself because she hadn't really got that opportunity in NXT up to this point because this was in May, so this was earlier in the year. But she did her thing in this match. Tessa Blanchard did end up winning. And I thought they were going to be with Tessa to win the World Championship, but I think she lost her. I think she got a match for the Knockouts title and lost. So I kind of understand why they didn't put the title back on her. And then at number 10, I got to go. 10 and 9 are also matches from Under Siege for TNA. But 10, I got to go with the Elegance brand defeating uh, defeating Spitfire at TNA Under Siege to retain the Knockouts tag titles. And Spitfire ended up having to split up after this. It was their last chance. If they lost, they had to split up, which is something they did previously and won against a different team. Now going into a versus Elegance brand. This is before Ash got her moment becoming a TNA Knockouts champion. Yeah, the Elegance brand did their thing. The personal consigliere got involved. I think he even wrestled in this match because I think it was a 3-on-2 as well. So I think he got him. So that was that was funny seeing the personal consigliere wrestle in that match. At number 9, I got to go with Masha Slamovich retaining the Knockouts title versus Victoria Crawford. Also Under Siege, like I said, Victoria Crawford had just came back at this point. Well, she had been back for a couple of months at this point, and then she got the title shot before Tessa Blanchard did, and it was a great match. Like Masha was having a really good year. Then personal stuff happened, which I'm not gonna get into. I already talked about that on the award show stream that I did with the family. But yeah, Masha had a great year, and things went downhill. Number 8, another TNA match, ironically. Javon Evans versus Leon Slater for the X Division Championship at Bound for Glory. The match ended in a no contest, but this was easily one of the best matches of the year. Two high flying guys putting on magic, two faces going into it. It is brand versus brand, which is why I don't care about face versus face or heel versus heel as much because they're both representing their brands. And NXT had the upper hand and still does on TNA and championship matches. Dark State interrupted for no reason and it ended in a no contest. But if Dark State doesn't interrupt and they just have Javon Leon Slater retain, this is a top 5 match if Dark State doesn't get involved. But I can't put it that high because of how it ended, but I can put it as high as 8 because that's one of my favorite matches as well. Number 7, John Moxley defeating Kazuchika Okada to win the Continental Classic and the Continental Championship at AEW World's End. This what made this match so good is the psychology of Moxley fighting through the leg injury. Like he did a good job selling it. Okada he focused on that leg as well. Like and obviously it's a so slow pace, not just because there are two heels, but it's like that's just how they wrestle. They wrestle a slower pace style in the ring. So there was a great, and that was right before the main event too. Like you could have made an argument. It could have like it was better than the main event. It was, and then the two semifinals matches they were both in separately. Those were good matches as well. But this match was really good. Then you had a great promo from John Moxley after he got the win. Like the baby face style promo to tease. So he's turning face soon. Like everything about this match was great. I had no problems with anything. The most fun Continental Classic of all time, and it had an amazing payoff. Now getting into number six, we almost at the top five. Number six, I gotta go with Stephanie Valkyrie defeating Io Sky for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship at WrestlePalooza. I don't think WrestlePalooza was as bad as people say. It wasn't great either, but it wasn't like something that was just trash. But Stephanie Valkyrie, Io Sky, they put on magic there, and they've been in the ring before. They was actually in the ring, the Raw after WrestleMania, and they had, yeah, I think, and they just had a random match just because. And then they ended in the no contest, obviously, and they ran it back with Naomi pregnant. It was like, Io, she got to get the shot since she was going to be next in line anyway, since Stephanie won the Battle Royal. And like two of the best in ring workers, like Io, she's one of the best in the world. She's up there with uh with Zack Sabre Jr., Seth Rollins, Ospreay, Kenny. When it comes to in ring work, I'm putting Io Scott up there, and that's how Io got over after her first reign wasn't that great as champion. She got over by what she was able to do in the ring and ended up getting a second reign as world champion and then consistently stayed in that main event scene throughout the year until recently where she ended the year in the tag team scene, which is fine because it's working out really well for her and Rhea. But Stephanie and Io, they made magic in the ring together. Even their first match was a really good match. It just ended in no contest for whatever reason. Like Io was still the world champion. She could have just won. You gonna have a match because I think Roxanne and Julia interfered. That was a really weird alliance. But yeah, Stephanie and Io at WrestlePalooza are easily the best match on that show. Like WrestlePalooza wasn't a great event, like I said. It wasn't terrible either, but this match definitely carried it to what it was. I think I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Now I'm getting into the top five. The top five wrestling matches of 2025. At number five, I have Los Garces defeating the Nemos, NGD, Psycho Clown, and Pagan and Pagano. Yeah, in a fatal four-way tag team match at AAA at Triple Mania and AAA in June. Man, this I wasn't expecting this match to be this good. Like I ain't know the story going into it because I wasn't keeping up with AAA Super Heavy, but this is right before the World's End had happened, I think. And then I was like, man, Los Garza is really doing their thing. The Nimble brothers showed out. Like Ryan Nimble, like I know he portrayed like he'd be running away a lot in his matches, but it was like he had a really good performance in this match. So they had TNA, WWE, and AAA involved. Pagano, Psycho Clown, like they look good in the ring. Like I loved everything about this match. Then Los Garza got the win, and I was like, maybe they I was hoping they would have got featured more on SmackDown. They featured them a little bit after winning the titles, but it was like, man, you could have built whoever they end up losing to. You could have had that be on a SmackDown to put that AAA team over and had them get some more recognition because it would have been like, oh, we seen a super cool title change that we these are guys we don't know. They could have did something like that, but it's what it is. All right, number four, another match from All In. Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay defeat the Young Bucks at All In. That's the If the Young Bucks win, Swerve and Ospreay can't challenge for the world title for a year. If Swerve and Ospreay win, the Young Bucks are no longer in control of AEW. They're no longer the EVPs. Man, what a build! What a match! Even and people call it a spot fest, but at the end of the day, this match has so many implications on it that it was like I don't care how many spots was in this match. This was the most important match of all in. Forget Moxley versus Hangman. Forget Mercedes and Tony Storm, which we had been waiting on. Like yeah, Hangman he finally climbed the mountaintop. Yeah, Tony Storm she put down Mercedes, who had been dominating all year. But this match had the most implications on any match and even affected what happened later on because obviously both teams were going to get involved in the main event. But whoever was hurt the least was going to get as was going to be able to be a little bit more involved in that main event. but Swerve and Osprey teaming up to take out the Young Bucks and beat them in a match. One of the best straight up tag team matches. Like yeah, no rules either. Just going out there and doing whatever. It's like the spots wasn't super crazy either. Like it wasn't like it was some crazy spots, but it wasn't like a finisher fest. And Swerve and Osprey end up winning the match to take away the Young Bucks' power. Man, that was amazing. Number three, another Io Sky match. Man, what a year for Io Sky. She did her thing. Another match for Io Sky. Two matches in the top six in my match of the years. Number three, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, putting on a classic at Evolution 2 in July. I've never seen them put on a bad match. Naomi cashes in Money in the Bank and become Women's World Heavyweight Champion. She failed to beat Jade twice. She wanted, obviously, the character change was great with the caution and all that. Wasn't able to beat Jade. She lost to Jade earlier in the night, but she walked home. She went home a winner that night, anyways, cashing in, winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Definitely didn't expect it. Like, yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all. Like, I figured maybe she cashed in on Trish and Tiffany because they had their match at Evolution as well. So I was thinking maybe she cashed in there. But when she cashed in on Io and Rhea, I was kind of shocked because I was like, wow. Like, it makes sense, but I wasn't expecting that to happen. Like, it did make, but yeah. And even, yeah, and I think they ran back to Triple Threat too, which I still prefer this one when Naomi cashed in over the one they ran back. But good, amazing match. Now for the final two matches, two AEW matches, gotta go with the number two, the Ops, Willow Nightingale, Swerve, and Kenny Omega defeating the Death Riders and the Young Bucks in Anarchy in the Arena at Double or Nothing back in May. Like the way everybody was intertwined in the main event scene and taking out the Death Riders and Young Bucks out of power in AEW against the top faces, like that was a great story. Like from January to well, really building up to that Double or Nothing in May until July and All In when everything happened, and even the stuff that's going on now, like the ops end up turning heel, and John Moxley is potentially going to be a face. But yeah, that was Anarchy in the Arena was amazing. Like Double or Nothing was a great pay per view, 8 out of 10. But Anarchy in the Arena was the best match on that card, and all six people did their thing. Willow, Marina Shafir. This is really when Marina Shafir showed out. I was like, oh yeah, she definitely improving. Like from what I've seen previously, yeah, she's definitely getting better. So yeah, I got to put that at two. And number one, as I mentioned on the awards show I did with the family recently, I got to go with the women's blood and gut match. Excuse me, the women's blood and guts match in November. This was on the episode of Dynamite. The Triangle of Madness, Mercedes Moné, Megan Bain, Marina Shafir defeating the Timeless Love Bombs, the Babes of Wrath, Jamie Hayter, and Chris Statlander. 6-on-6, just all six women just going at it. And it was amazing. I'm pretty sure Queen Aminata was supposed to be a part of it, but she ended up getting injured and wasn't able to. But especially how it ended, the ending was special to me because Mina Shirakawa, she was getting dog walked in that match. And Tony Storm eventually just gave up because she didn't want to see Mina go through any more pain. Like their story of best friends being the timeless love bombs. And the other stuff they're doing now of Mina getting jealous of Tony Storm hanging with Orange Cassidy, that's funny. Like I know and that's just recently. Like this is still from November going into December. So that's just recently. But yeah, and then some of these teams were in the women's tag team tournament as well. But yeah, that that's the match of the year. That was the best wrestling match of 2025, in my opinion. Those are the top 20 matches, well, top 22 really, because I gave you two honorable mentions. But with that being said, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment some of your top matches of the year. You don't gotta comment 20, please. I'm probably not reading if you comment 20 matches. But what were some of your top matches of the year, and what matches do you agree with or disagree with that I had on my list? So, like once again, like, comment, and subscribe, and Happy New Year.